morning, everyone. We would like to, this is the session, welcome Professor Jacob Schwartz and the professor in Georgia State University USA. And the title of this presentation is to create future business leaders for regional and global competition. We also welcome Professor Ahmed Zari, Professor of Business Administration, Faculty of Commerce, Cairo University, and ex-governor of Lukliye. We listen first to Professor Jacob for his lecture, and after that we have a discussion from Ahmed Zari.
Good morning. I would like to spend this morning with you to share my ideas and thinking around how to prepare future business leaders for regional global competition. It is a privilege to be here at Faculty of Commerce at Cairo University to share this thinking because we are very strong partners. We have a very successful program together, and we would like to make sure we continue to think about how we may need to change, address, and accommodate our program together in order to respond to the challenges out in the market. So, if we think about the world today, actually, I think we can be very proud of where we have come, how things look. I think this global world, if we look at what's happened in health, child mortality has come down dramatically. If we look at literacy around the world, today there are actually quite a small part of the population of the world that are completely illiterate. So in literacy, we have made huge progress in reducing. And of course, as business, as Faculty of Commerce, as a business school, we are very proud of the contribution that I think that businesses have made to globalization, because the number of people that have lived in really deep poverty has dropped dramatically over the last 30 years. It's not all good. There are also some challenges. And how did this happen? Of course, it starts with these two Englishmen that had a huge impact. Adam Smith with the idea of specialization, and then Ricardo that comes with the idea of the trade and really the ability of countries to have advantage, comparative advantage over us. And these ideas then, of course, led to the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, the WTO, and many of the regional integration that we've seen around the world. I use it as an example Europe as economic integration, because Europe is a rather strong integration. It is not just the good flow of goods across borders that is easy in Europe, it's also money, capital, and also labor. People can move very freely around Europe. But it's also not for everybody the same. The Brits have always been a little bit on the outside, and they're not sure they want to be in there anymore. So this force has had a very powerful impact in changing the conditions in which we have to conduct business today. Of course, then the other big force that had an impact on what's going on around the world is technology. The steam engine, electricity, the combustion engine, the transistor, and of course then the computer, the microscope, and refrigeration. And these things all have made it possible for us to trade around the world. We move goods everywhere around the world. We can buy fresh food from anywhere in the world all year round. We have people very well connected. And of course, we have this amazing technology that we carry around with us, these devices we carry around. Even my watch is smarter than I am today. You know, my watch tells me 10 minutes before the hour you've been sitting too long, you need to go for a walk right now. So technology is very powerful in the way it's connected us, our ability to transfer data, to transfer knowledge. And the next big development here is this Internet of Things, when your refrigerator will tell you it's time to go buy milk, or maybe your refrigerator will tell Amazon to order the milk and deliver it to your house. So this is a very, very powerful set of forces that have had an impact. So we're connected. We travel all the time. Goods travel all the time. People are working as teams together, and we collect data about this all the time. So we have huge amounts of data that allows us to have a huge impact. And of course, it's not also always good, because we know in some of this information that is being shared and some of this data that's moving around, the impact is sometimes not very positive. In the United States, we have a big debate today about the impact that this information had on the political process. But it's a reality in which we live. And there's not going to be agreement on this. So on the one side, there's Mr. Thomas Friedman, that have argued for a long time that the world is flat. You know, we can do your work anywhere, anytime. And that is true. But then there is also Mr. Damas who's now in Barcelona, that argues that, well, maybe the world is not so flat, because the reality is there's still so many barriers, many challenges to overcome. And so the interesting thing that comes out of this is we have some very good research that shows what the world looks like. And the resource that I think is very powerful in helping us think about this problem of how do we prepare in business the workers for tomorrow is this idea of economic complexity. And a good resource for this is the Atlas of Economic Complexity. And it's for free available. So you can find it on Google very easily if you want. And so the two important points that come out of the analysis on economic complexity that argues that, first of all, ultimately, the complexity of any economy in the world as related to the multiplicity of useful knowledge that's embedded in the economy. So if people know a lot of things, but it is not very useful, you will not have a very complex economy. If they don't know many things, you will not have a very complex economy. And so this is a very important concept. And that economic complexity is typically expressed by the composition of the country's productive output. And it reflects the structures that emerge in a whole to combine this knowledge. And so in the research, it's very interesting that you take two kinds of things. I know this may be a little difficult to see, but there are two ways in which we measure economic complexity. On the one side is how diverse are the products and services in any country, in any economy. And on the other side, it is how easy is it to get all kinds of products in an economy. We call that ubiquity. And there's some beautiful statistical analysis we can do here to figure out how complex are economies. And to use as an example, the world's most complex economy today is Japan. Actually, it's been the most complex economy in the world for almost 30 years. Why? Because Japan does not have many resources. But Japan produces a lot of technology. It sells the technology everywhere. And so the fact that you can just about anything in Japan, and you can go just about anywhere in the world and find the technology of Japan, even though they don't have many resources, means they bring in a lot, they send out a lot, and it's the knowledge that's embedded in that economy that is powerful. And of course, in Japan, this is very much a manufacturing driven example. The United States does not do so well in economic complexity, even though it's pretty high. One of the reasons is you have a very large economy that is in many ways self-sustaining. You could, until 30 years ago, you could be a top 100 Fortune company and not do any business outside the United States because the economy was so big. That today is very different. Even for the United States, you cannot do that. And so when we look at this complexity, and you can actually also not just find the research online for free, they have this tool online where you can compare countries and products. You can look at a product and say, how complex is this product? In other words, how many places does it come from? And how many places is it available? But I'm not here as an economist. I'm here as an educator in a business school. So the question is, what brings these two things together? Well, it's the knowledge of the people in the country that bring these two things together. That's what makes for complexity. And that is our question today is, how do we prepare leaders that we need? People who can deal with this continuous change because it does not stop. It changes all the time. That are prepared to learn continuously. We are not going to be graduated and then we're done. We will have to continue to learn new skills, new tools, new conditions. And we'll understand what the challenges are in this kind of environment. And of course, if this is how we define economic complexity, they have to be able to work across borders. And so this is the kind of knowledge that we are talking about when we are thinking about how do you prepare business leaders, economic leaders, managers for tomorrow. How do we do this? That's the big question. We struggle with this all the time. And I'm going to use a few examples of how we have done that, and also how we've done that here in Cairo, and where I think we can go in the future. And so we know that we need to create graduates that can deal with this continuous change. That understand the world not as a static place, but as a continually changing place, and are willing to all the time go different places to get the information. They have to continue to learn, and they need to understand the challenges. And in the end, what we're talking about is internationalization of the curriculum, of the learning, because that is how those connections, and that is how we generate in the country the knowledge that will result in continued success. For Egypt, so Egypt is, of all the countries in the world, in economic complexity, right now ranked as 57, which is rather good. You know, there are 200 countries in the world, Egypt is sitting at 57, and part of that is because there are rather sophisticated skill sets in Egypt in some industries. They're also unique in some ways because they are, in many cases, in a large number of cases, they are publicly owned. They are not privately owned. They are supported and related in a large part to government administration over time. But they're also different from the Chinese state-owned enterprises. But the result is that in Egypt, we have a very powerful economy in the way that these enterprises have skill sets to be able to compete and to be successful. And how do we respond to that? So what will we do? Well, I have a perfect solution, okay? In a perfect solution, we would have people that can speak at least one language, other language than their mother language, fluently. And these people can stay for a very long time, maybe a semester or a year or 2, 3 years in a different country to learn and understand the economy. And they will also travel to many other countries all the time. And they will have a very deep understanding of cross-cultural dynamics and of trade regimes around the world and trade agreements and international law. and global supply chains and of capital markets, and exchange rates, international accounting standards, and taxes. But this is a very difficult thing to do. We're talking about a lifetime here, correct? To acquire these skills. And it's also very expensive. So the perfect solution maybe is not. That's why I end there with it. And also, yeah, we know it's perfectly no such thing, right? What we need instead think is that when we talk about global education, internationalization of education, is that we should have a pragmatic approach. And that we live in a continuum. On the one hand, we have people that can only work in the local economy. They could be highly skilled, highly capable, and we have many senior leaders that are like that. They've been very effective, but they are very effective in the local context. And on the other hand, we would have people that are very effective in a global context and they can do things everywhere. But there's in the middle, there are people that can do things internationally, maybe between two countries. And many of us that originally got involved in internationalization became an expert in one other country. Because it took a long time, we studied your PhD in another country, and you understand one other country rather well because you spent many years there. But then, of course, there's also the regional part. So whether you become completely global and understand all of it, or understand the region very well, or at least understand one other country and the trade, or whether you're it's a continuum. And where do we find the best place on this? How do we design internationalization of education in a business environment to find the right place here? We know that there needs to be a basic skill set, and we need to understand what the skill sets of our students are. So if I look at the program, the Georgia program, we know the students have they have English. They have a high level of English. Otherwise, they cannot do the work. So we know that that's one thing that they have. And then we need to design the program, and we have designed the program in order to be international. And the design for this program with Cairo is that our faculty have come to Cairo, and some faculty from the Faculty of Commerce, Cairo came to Atlanta. We have some faculty development. So that's how we did that. But we also have to think about what are the needs of the market. So we don't design something that the market does not want. We need to be very responsive in that area. We need to look where are the jobs, where are the employment opportunities, when we come up with an optimal solution here. And we have to think about the economics. That's the problem with the perfect solution, is that it would take a lifetime and a fortune to do that, and you would be not productive during that period of time. So that's not many of us that can do that. So we need to think about those economics, and not just the economics from our institutional perspective, but the economics of our students. What can they afford, and how can they do that? So actually, I can tell you that at Georgia State University, at the Robinson College, we have had a program that lives all the way here on the global side. It was called Global Partners MBA. It was an MBA degree in which we recruited students. They spent the first 8 months in Atlanta. Then they would go to Rio de Janeiro, and they would spend 5 weeks there were 8 weeks in Atlanta, and then 8 weeks to Rio de Janeiro, where they would spend time at Copiage Business School at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. So the faculty were Brazilian. The program was taught in English, but they lived, they had to find their own housing. We didn't give them housing because they had to develop that skill set. And they would live in Rio. And then they would come back to Atlanta for 4 weeks. Then they would go to Paris, to AIE, the Sorbonne, the graduate business school, for 8 weeks. And they would have to find their own place to live in Paris. They would be there for 8 weeks. The faculty would be French faculty teaching in English. The curriculum was completely integrated. It was a dual degree. And then they would go to China for 2 weeks. And then they would come back to Atlanta for the summer. We do some strategy work, and then they had to do an internship for 4 months. And the internship had to be anywhere in the world. So in 14 months, we would take a student through this entire program. And that was a very intensive attempt to be all the way on this side. But it also cost $120,000 US to do this, okay? So 15, 16 years ago, we thought this was the way to do internationalization or globalization of education. And 5 years ago, it was clear this is not the way to do it. And that's it. I was the director of the program. And so I had to do the analysis, and I had to go to the dean and say, I don't want to recruit for this program anymore. I want to stop this program. And many of my colleagues, they still don't talk to me because they are happy about this. But there was no market. There's no, and you would graduate a student that spent $120,000 on a degree, and the employers would say, I don't think this person knows very much, and they would not even ask them. They would say, I think this person has too much money. They just want to travel. We need somebody with deep knowledge in one region. We don't need people that want to jet set around the world all the time. So it actually became a problem in the employment market that the program design was this way. So it is one last is about change over time. And so if we look at the Georgia program, we have thought about this over time. The program is not a new program, but we feel that we are somewhere still between local and international maybe. Because we've had faculty move back and forth, maybe a few students that move back and forth. We've tried different things, but how would we change this? How would we improve this? And this is, of course, I'm very proud of the Georgia program at Thabit University because I think it's a beautiful program and it has a good reputation and it has some real brand value. But we probably will have to make sure that we stay tuned to these opportunities. But we also have to ask the question about the research programs, and we have to ask the question about other education. So when we design this, language is an important part. And of course, so in Georgia, we make it all English. We have to develop the faculty. The faculty has to have an understanding. And I can tell you, it's not just from my perspective, from our perspective, that we have faculty from our university to Atlanta so we can train them, okay? Or we send our faculty here to faculty. Of course, we do that. But it is for me more important today to have my faculty from Atlanta come to Cairo for a period because they need to develop. Because many of them are top scholars in their field, but they have no idea what Cairo is like. They have no idea what Egypt is like. And so this faculty development and complexity is not the one-way street. It goes both ways. We have used virtual technology, and for a period we did this as a solution to security concern. You know, American faculty didn't want to come to Egypt; they were afraid. And if they wanted to come to family, they said, "Oh, it's not." Now, of course, this is also a perception, because I think many American schools are more dangerous than Egypt is. You know, we have this problem in the United States, but. So we use virtual technology, but then we need to think about how we can use virtual technology better or in different ways in these kinds of programs. Of course, exchange is something we have done, faculty exchange, both ways, and some student exchange. We're very fortunate that last summer 2 students got scholarship from the Middle East, and last fall 4 to spend the semester in Atlanta. We think that is very valuable, but we cannot take the whole Georgia program to Atlanta because again the economics will not support that. And of course, you can also think about the question of a foreign degree. You know, it's a dual degree or a foreign degree. How do we do that? And we have to ask this question as they continue this between local and global, between undergraduate education, professional education, and then, of course, post-graduate research education. How would internationalization look here? So there are different pathways that we know are out there. One of them is the dual degree. A degree from 2 universities that can get their curriculum designed in such a way that the credits from one university counts as the other university. It is very complicated to do this because accreditation becomes an issue. Increasingly for us in a public university in the United States, it's also a problem of balance. If I have an exchange program with Cairo University and I will take an unlimited number of students on exchange to come to Atlanta with no tuition, I will have many students every year, right? But because I'm a public university, the provost says, for every student that comes in, one needs to go out. So how many students do you think I will get every year to come study for a semester at Cairo University? It's difficult, you know. It's not going to be as many. So the balance from degrees is very serious because they become expensive. The other question is, you can require a foreign residency in internationalization. So the student has to spend an internship or 1 semester or 8 weeks in the other university in the country. Some programs do that. And if you are a private university and your students have a lot of resources, then this is certainly an option. It has some value. But we have a big job out here. There are many students out there, and how many people can be really effective if we do that? So there are study abroad options, which would be the semester abroad or short-term abroad. We do many of these for our students because our students are also working professionals. So they cannot spend a whole semester abroad. So we'll take them for 2 weeks. Very intensive 2-week experience abroad, short-term experience. That's one way of doing that. But the powerful solution we see is today using one of these forces that is driving globalization is technology, correct? People can talk to each other all the time, they can share data all the time, they can communicate all the time. Let's use that. Let's use that in what we call blended learning, in which some of the learning happens online, some of the learning happens in person. And here it is very important to find the right balance. Because I always say to my students in the United States that I can talk about Egypt, or I can talk about India, or I can talk about China for hours to tell you what it is like. If you go to YouTube and watch people doing things in Cairo, or people doing things in Shanghai for 30 minutes, you will learn more than I can teach you. Because you see and you hear, well, maybe not like or maybe not the same, correct? But there's a very powerful way where you can see, and technology makes that possible today. So how do we find that balance between all teaching in the classroom, one lecture, versus all watching videos online? It's somewhere in the middle. But we also have to think about how teams of students work together. Teams of students work together when they are at different universities in different countries, on a project, on a case analysis. And here's the interesting thing when we talk about internationalization of education from this perspective. Many times we have started this kind of project as an economical way to give our students exposure to other students. I cannot take them to the case competition in Thailand, so I put a team of students in Thailand and a team of students in Atlanta together to work on a case. So for me, it was originally an economic solution. But what I found is that the case analysis becomes much stronger because the perspectives of the students in Thailand or in Cairo, or in Dubai, or in Johannesburg, bring something to the analysis that my students don't have. And my students will not have because they do the case preparation, no matter how good they are, when I put them in contact to compete in a case. So bringing these teams together to work like that is a very powerful way, not just to solve, to leverage the economics, but also to result in very powerful education, teamwork, learning, that achieves this objective of knowledge being developed on both sides. Of course, we continue to do the faculty exchange because in the end, what you have to decide in this internationalization of education is what do you do online, what do you do virtually, but you have to make what you do in the classroom really valuable. So bringing faculty from one country to the other that don't just learn, but also share what they know and bring their perspective. We learned that in Global Partners MBA, because there what we saw is that our students, so it was all taught in English, correct? But the students would leave Atlanta, and I would warn them, you know, you're gonna go to Rio de Janeiro, when you get to class in the morning, you need to be prepared. So yeah, you know, there are no American professors, you know. You come to class, you're not very well prepared, what does the professor do? The professor explains everything that you don't know, because the professor is disappointed the student didn't prepare. Well, the students don't get to Rio de Janeiro, they get there in the morning, and they're in an angel afternoon, it's beautiful. They get to class in the morning, and the professor says, here's the question to the case. What is your answer? And the professor sits down. And, you know, the students wait. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes. The professor just sits down and says, I'm not teaching it. This is the case. You need to, this is the way you do it in Brazil. I ask a question, you need to come up with the answer. And that internationalization, I mean, this cultural thing that was very different. Then they go to France, you know, and then, in Brazil, if you show up late for class, well, it's just part of life, you know. I mean, this is just the way it is in Brazil. In France, if you're 3 minutes late in class, the door is closed, you don't come in class, 0 attendance for the day. So the value there is that the faculty were teaching the way they teach in France, or the way they teach in Brazil, or they teach in the United States. And the students have to accommodate their learning and their thinking and their work styles and their learning styles to that context. So it's very powerful. So we take that learning and we say, if you're going to teach in the classroom, then what you want to think is, what is the real value of what happens in the classroom? Not just, well, this is the way we do it. We cannot do this other thing, so we're going to do it well. Now, what is really the value that happens in a classroom? And how do you make that the most out of that? And then you keep open the option of teaching virtually, synchronously. If you have the technology, you can do that. If you have reliable transmission communications, you can do that. You always have to have a backup plan because it's not always going to work. You never know when it's not going to work. And you have the options. But here then, the travel becomes optional. If you design the program, then some students can travel. Students that can afford to travel, the students that want to travel, because maybe not everybody wants to travel. But you also bring the thing when you think about internationalization this way is that when the students come back that did go abroad, they should not just come to the class and do things the way they used to do things anymore, because they've experienced internationalization in a different way, and you need to use them in the classroom to help your other students understand what happened in that experience. And you have to think about that. This is not something that comes very easy and very. But this is not easy, okay? This internationalization is not simple. There are huge challenges. Credentials. So, are they going to get a degree from my university or not a degree from my university? Who is really the authority that's going to issue the degree? And this is not something that I can decide it's going to be my degree or not, because there are deep institutional challenges in making degrees available to other students. And it's not just my university that makes that decision, it's also those institutions that accredit me. So our business school is accredited with AACSB, and they have rules about if I give a degree to a student from Georgia State University, the faculty that taught that student have to meet all the requirements of education that is required by ACSB, or my student cannot get the degree. And so if I don't think about that, then it's going to be a challenge. And most important, there has to be a strategic decision made that we are going to internationalize in our education. And I think in Egypt right now, the message is very clear. I mean, the message is very clear from President Al-Sisi. We see that. He says internationalization is really important in our education. We see that at the university level. Everybody, I saw that in Cairo. I see that at the other universities, internationalization is a very high priority. What are we going to do to work together to make that happen? That's what I have to offer. Okay.
Thank you for this lovely, interesting lecture. And now we listen to the discussion and comments from the parties.
Good afternoon. Before I start, I would like to thank the Quran and the administration of Faculty of Commerce here University for inviting me to be part of this great event and wish you all the luck. Secondly, I would like to thank Lucas for the very informative presentation, very neat and very articulated actually. And so thank you very much for the nice presentation. And actually, I will make my comments not regarding the students' preparation for be business leaders or so. I will talk about the never-ending story of leadership and leaders. Perpetuation story. It will never end. Since we were in the Faculty of Commerce 1970s, we kept hearing and talking about leaderships and leaders. Are they named or they're born leaders? And I don't want to talk about this, but I have few marks about leaders and their importance. Actually, number one, the history of nations and organizations are named and written after their leaders. So, for instance, in Egypt, we have the Abdel Nasser era, Sadat era, Mubarak era. So we always write history in terms of the leaders. So is the case in the organizations. We are defining periods by the leaders. No matter what the name you give them, entrepreneur, leaders, businessmen, they are the leaders. We have Tal'a Harb era. This is an era that all of us, I think, remember what this guy did to Egypt. So it's named after Tal'a. Secondly, I will try to make my comments very brief, so I give time for the audience to discuss. The battle is, if we talk internationalization, the battle is being between two things: brain drain and brain gain. As we all know, people with smart brains, they move from the less developed countries to the more advanced countries. I can claim, I'm not sure that this is true, but I have numbers also, that Egypt is a great drain. So the question is, can we maintain our leaders, our business leaders, our strategic thinkers here in Egypt? This is a very tough question for us. And the idea is, watch them, help them grow, or watch them go. Okay. Help them grow or watch them grow. Definitely, they will immigrate. So we are not about talking the concept of leadership. The concept is, can we maintain them? This is a question. If not, why not? Okay? So this is a very important issue. We have leaders. We have strategic thinkers, but they leave us. So we have to dig in this area. Why do they leave us? Can we maintain them? Even if we pay much more than we can afford. Seeking leaders and businessmen and entrepreneurs, you don't look at the cost side. Actually, this is a fatal mistake. You don't, if you look at the cost side, definitely you will look at the outcome side. What can they bring to us? So this is another issue. Leaders now are not custodians of machines. Old days, especially at the industrial revolution area, the main task of the leaders was to take care of the machines. Now, I do think that leaders are playing a totally different role. They are custodians of minds instead of custodians of machines. We don't need to take care of machines. Some people will do this, but we need leaders to take care of people's minds. This is not. The bad side of the leadership story and all this kind of stuff, leaders are the first one to be rewarded. Yet, they are the one before the first one to be punished. As you can see, if we have a team coach, if there is a reward, yes, I take part of the reward. It is someone to be punished. أول واحد will be punished هو leader. ويسيبوا اللاعبين. الناس جوه الأرض يا جماعة. And we are living زي ما الدكتور عارف الدكتور هو عارف كده we are living a case of the leader is punishing everyone and each should be punished. بس ما تعملوهاش في الكلام. ما بيكونش أصل المقصة ما بيكونش one final thing, the importance of leadership. When we talk leaders, I don't help myself to the very narrow concept of leader. Leaders are everywhere. Leaders are everywhere. مش لازم يبقى appointed at the top of the hierarchy to be leader. Could be ambassador. واحنا بنعيش نموذج محمد صلاح. محمد صلاح is an ambassador, is a leader, is an everything, is affecting every single person in Egypt. I will claim, I'm not sure يعني. لكن in this part of the broader concept of leader. عندنا خميس leaders. He's a leader. He's not at the top of the hierarchy. He's a normal guy, but he is a leader. He possesses the qualifications of being a leader. Okay, so what's the role? This is the most important thing. He is a role model. And the notion here is that people or employees follow leaders in their behavior, attitudes, the way they dress, the way they talk. It's a very serious business, actually, to talk about the role model, leaders as role models. I don't want to take much time, but I would like just to point out that HR activities are very important at the corporate level, at the nation level, to maintain actually three things, as you all know: attract, retain, and develop potential leaders. I call them art: attract, training, and developing people. Now we come to the students. Yes, the students are the starting point of having leaders. But the question is, and this is for the group store, I can see most of the business leaders fail their higher education. They were kicked out of the university. Do you have an explanation for that? I would like to thank you for allowing me to give my impression about leadership, and once again I enjoyed the lecture of focus, and I enjoyed the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having for these valuable and open comments and discussions. I think we can open to the floor to have some comments to it.
Professor Jackson, thank you so much. And also, Jackson, thank you very much. And Dr. Azad, you've been a real wonderful question. So I'm so grateful. I will remind Dr. Azad that we had a very long conversation when he was kind of in 2008, and he had a clear agenda for this, that he wanted to develop leaders for our business education and to keep those leaders in Egypt to create the right platform for them to stay. And so this was on the top agenda, and I guess this has been shared also by Professor. We have this in mind. And I remember that when I was in Atlanta in 2010, I had some sort of a television interview, and they asked me what you are seeking for. I said, develop leaders. 3 important skill sets that we usually lack in Egypt, which is working as an effective team member. We are good leaders, we have to be an effective team member. And then continuous learning, we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And also, very important, think outside the box. And this agenda was translated, I use the term that Dr. Amir usually say, to offering great education to important significant market segments in Egypt, and also in keeping us from the brain drain. So I didn't want to say the number, but let me say that on the level of our business department, a simple calculation says that we suffer out of 36 billion Egyptian pounds brain drain over the last 5 years. On the level of Egypt, this is translated over the last 10 years, more than 25 billion Egyptian pounds, and this is not the real loss. The real loss is the people that we lost, not really the money that we spend on creating this people. So if we have a business education system just as advanced as the internationalization, and breeding leaders, thinking about a program like Georgia, a breeding ground and change catalyst in the mind of students. This is a real challenge because, yes, it has to reflect on the design of the curriculum, on the assessment, on the teaching methodologies, change of faculty development on both sides. But also, I guess, addresses with important reaching to policymakers. I mentioned the president uses policy leaders because in Egypt, for example, if you want to be leader, if I will assume leadership, you have 2 important challenges. Talk about the wonderful concept of complexity. Apart from complexity of Egypt, that you have to be some sort of a public entrepreneur, achieving your goals through a public institution, which I guess not here, severe pain for the trying to achieve this, and you're trying to achieve important social causes, and you still have to sustain this at a profit to be able to continue for the sake of profit. So actually, how bringing a wonderful advanced state-of-the-art world-class business school down to Egyptian realities with the American faculty to help us in be entrepreneurship on our own, in our own environment, our own way. So this is a challenge. I would like you with your wonderful international experience to share what can be the mechanism for this. I know there's no template, there's no perfect solution. But what can be the template? Because this is the real challenge. You bring them in Georgia, but they deal with the difficulties and hardships of public entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship.
Thank you, Dwayne. Any other comments?
Thank you, Juan. I would like to thank very much faculty from the university, especially the team is conference run by application for this assessment conference. This is the real role of any educational institution in the science. Second, I would like to thank, of course, Mr. Jacob. Or I would like to ask Mr. Jacob, if I have, then you suggest that students have language, skills, they will travel. If I find somebody very energetic and have excellent way, but he hasn't the culture of this matter of money. Can I finance it? And for the energetic team of Taiwan University, I think it is not a problem to prepare a lot of students and give them and let them perform in the society without the chance to work. Very important question. This is energetic and good way to any educational association with think. So I suggest to think out of the box. This is my thinking. I suggest that Taiwan University, Faculty of Commerce, can change, can take small pilot projects. These small pilot projects, in coordination with the society and the business society, and you change can choose very clever in studying students or tertiary and give him the way to walk, the way to swim, not leave him in the sea and not give him the right way to swim. It is an idea, and the idea suggested to the energetic Dean Dr. Thabba. Thank you for this successful conference, and thank you for the
thank you, everyone. Actually, I have one question and one comment that might be question. The question, first of all, concerned the draft and took a lot of thoughts from me as I realized that indeed I started from team 20, right? Ended in 2015 or 2014. So it's very, very interesting to see the data starting that long, which is quite good. I don't know how we managed to get it. And I was surprised actually that all graphs come down, even the population market. The unemployment has gone down, sharply down, and that chart in the last 15 years. Even that in 1820, I believe the entire world were less than 2 billion. So 10%, is that a percent or is that figure? I think it's a percentage. All percentage. So how come that the unemployment as a percentage has gone down that sharp? This is a question about the right? But you ended up, second point, you ended up your presentation by a question after you presented to us. What are the requirements for a leader? Ended up by the question, which is what are we going to do? And let me tell you that it's extremely clever way to end this presentation that way, in my point of view, and why that? Because you are giving us a live example of how do we create leaders. Because leaders, I cannot take a guy, put him in front of me for 2 or 3 hours teaching him how to be a leader. I have to make him think of how to be a leader. So, your presentation, you introduced to us all the requirements for a leader. And all over a sudden, give us the question so that we start to think of how to develop the leader. And this is the best methodology. We can use it to create the. So let me say chapeau to your presentation. Very perfect way, and thanks for the final question.
Thank you for your presentations. Thank you, Dr. Adel, for it's actually a question for all of you. I agree that I agree with Dr. Adel that the big is catastrophic, especially in academia in Egypt. However, I guess the problem is not they go out, it's that they go out for good. They never return even after retirement. So, is this actually a problem? Is it really a problem that they go out, or is it our problems that we do not link them, even if they choose to stay outside? We don't have on a public policy level. We do not have policy and the programs to link distinguished scholar. I'm speaking about academia specific. To link distinguished scholars with the institutions in Egypt, academic or research institutions. I know that some countries in our region and in South America, for example, in Eastern Europe, they have programs based on specific country needs to link their scholars with their institutions for longer times and for part times. So what should we do? I mean, it's inevitably nobody's going to come back. So what should we do? Should we just read about it? Another thing, just when Professor Jacobus was discussing how to change the curriculum to add international perspective so we can develop leaders with integrated perspective. How can we develop this to the bottom of the pyramid students?
Actually, I want to add something about challenges for exchange. I don't know whether you forget it or not, but culture is very, very dangerous challenge in exchange students. Very, very dangerous, okay? And this is number one. And number two, I want to say something about Robin Sharma. He had a book titled Leaders with No Title. Leaders with No Title, okay? And it's a very, very good book in English. Before we began to work about leaders, positive side, his dangerous effect for dark side of leadership is called toxic leadership. Nowadays, it's very spread toxic leadership. Okay, this is the dark side of leadership, and challenging for your challenges. Culture is very, very way for exchange.
My name is Sue. I'm a student at Thabit University career program, and here are my colleagues as well. So actually, we believe that university play a great role in shaping future leaders. However, we were asking like why this partnership between Georgia program and Thabit University was not extended yet. However, maybe a more advanced level of study like for a postgraduate degree. So if we didn't have, we are seniors, if we didn't have the chance to join you in our bachelor's degree, then maybe we can have another chance of doing it for our post-academic degree. Thank you.
Thank you very much, both of you, for the beautiful presentation. My first comment to Professor Jack, while you are talking about preparation of international business leaders through the educational program applied in Georgia. I remember 30, 40 years ago, I was teaching at the Cairo University. And at that time, huge number of Chinese and Japanese students joined the courses here, for not only for one semester, but for more than one semester. And nowadays, they are the business leaders of the Japanese and the Chinese companies invested in Asia. They understood very well the environment and the country. And I'm just wondering, after all this long history of educational cooperation with the Georgia University, why didn't you think about sending some of the American students to study in Egypt? We are passing in this country through the last 5 years a unique experience of economic development. It is worth it to be studied and to be researched for any expected to be business future leaders. I'm just wondering if you can think about it and put it in your strategy of preparing these students. My other comment to my dear friend, Dr. Adil, who took us to a little bit thinking about, I'm thinking, Dr. Adil, seriously about the environment. I mean, is the environment nowadays didn't help all over the world to create unique individual leaders, starting from the national leaders, we are talking about them, up to the leaders in singing, leaders in music, leaders in any arts, or the environment nowadays are helping to create flat individuals. I mean, the all alike individuals, whether they are presidents, I mean in different countries, or leaders in different countries, or singers, or artists. Yani we are in lack of this type, but this phenomenon.
Thank you for the comment, and we will be delayed, so we have 5 comments.
Thank you. So I think that I can tie several of the observations together into some response. I have a fundamental different view from the world than you have. I do not see us in Georgia State University in the United States living up here, having to come down here to Egypt. I fundamentally disagree with you. This here is as sophisticated, and I say that very sincerely. This is not just to be nice to my Egyptian friends. I sincerely believe there is no difference between, yes, there's economic prosperity in the United States that there is not in Egypt for a larger number of people. No question about that. But from a perspective of thinking about problems, solving solutions, working with people, and also the dark side, Egypt in that is the same place, okay? So the question is, how do we come here? And it's also the issue of culture, is that I cannot help somebody. I don't think there's anything to do on the brain drain side with somebody whose view of the world is, I, for myself, will take the most I can get, and go where I can have the most. I cannot do much with that. For me, the question is, how do I find a way for somebody to see that I can make a contribution, I have an opportunity where I am, even if I go learn somewhere else, that I can make a contribution here. And I think the Chinese and the Japanese, they did it from a policy perspective, but also a cultural perspective. Is that the Japanese culture is like that. You come back home. The Chinese culture is you come back home. We pay for you to go, you go take, and you bring it back. And they find leaders, and they do that. So the challenge is to find policy in which you can get those people that will make that kind of difference, and enrich them somewhere else if you can, and let them bring them back. That I think is a very big challenge. And then when they come back, they look at their own culture with the value that it has, instead of saying, you need to change, become like where I was. This is a really serious challenge. So I think that one can create programs to fund a small number of people to have this, but only if those people are committed to come back and to bring back. So I think it's all about designing this, and the reality is that in Egypt today, if you look at this knowledge, this management skill, it is here, and it has actually living in a lot of private and public companies, organizations. That's where it is. You know, we live in the private free market today, so many of us around the world will look down about those people that manage very effectively, very important sectors in Egypt, because we believe that's why. And in the yes, I don't have the answer. I have the question as to how are we going to do this. I think it is an illusion to think that I can fly here from the United States. And, we cannot do it that way.
Okay, thank you very much. You allow me my closing statement. You allow me, since you are the only person who speak directly in this room.
Go right
I cannot see any important. No, you are only. So you have to. Sorry, do you have time? لا الفون لا it's a time important issue. I would like to respond to Dr. Abid's question in terms of the train and train game. I would think to step that. You can recall Muhammad Ali's movement to improve Egypt and make a real development in Egypt. What did he do? He sent missions, France, especially France, and when they came back, they made the difference. They made the difference. So, we need to do this, to adopt this model, but we send them زي الحمام وما يرجعوش. The question is, can we tie them to Egypt or not? المهم يبقوا عندي هنا physically. What are the contribution they can contribute to money? Give me money, but we get the $1 ولا تدفع لي $10,000 ولا 10,000 جنيه. Is this what you expect? Does knowledge equal money? We call them intellectual capital. We cannot price them. If I give you 5,000, 10,000, that's all is what you need is money out of them. No, I don't need money. I need knowledge, experience, and creativity, innovation. And all this you can tie them. The Indian experiment is doing this. They call back their immigrants. They give them the same privileges they had outside. But you have to treat those people differently. Look at them differently. To attract them, to retain them, and to develop them. Concerning the question of Henry, we don't have the grades anymore. وزي ما حضرتك يمكن اديت مثال عظيم، كان زمان المطرب عظيم لان ما كانش في وسيله توصل للجمهور الا بطريقه. دلوقتي انا ممكن وانا قاعد مع حضرتك هنا انا وسعادتك انا اقول اغنيه وانت تلحنها وتطلع وهتلاقيها بكره تعمل هيت. بس انت بتشوف هنا الناس اللي هم بيعملوا هيتس دي هو سنجل بيختفي. مفيش الايه الديمومه، ما عندناش طلعت حرب، وي دونت هاف طلعت حرب. ما عندناش شرف، ما عندناش مين؟
ام كلثوم.
انا بس سمعتها سكر قلت لا انا عندي سكر. انا شخصيا السكر بتاعي. As a final conclusion, I don't think in this session we can grab all the issues of leadership, the whole aspects. It's an endless movie, Why? The nature of leadership every day is changing. We are talking about leadership in the 2018. Maybe in 2030 there will be a totally different business model for me. And I'd like to thank you all. Thank you.
النقطة هي اللي لازم نركز عليها ونقول عليها ان احنا يعني اضعف ما هو موجود حاليا في الاكاديميك ادمنستريشن عندنا الادمنستريشن مانجمنت. ما عندناش يونيفرسيتي مانجمنت واليونيفرسيتي ادمنستريشن كمان. ونظام الاداره التعليم العالي كنظام اداره مش موجود. وسيبني اقول كده ان انا خلال ال5 سنين اللي فاتوا تعرفت على نظم اداره التعليم العالي في معظم دول العالم. ما عندناش نظام اداره. يكفي اقول لحضرتك ان القانون اللي بيحكمنا بقى 50 سنه. وكل اللي احنا بنطمح اليه مش موجود في القانون اصلا. ده قانون سنه 72. فاحنا بقى لنا 50 سنه يعني المفروض في انجلترا نظم القوانين الجامعيه اللي بتنظم عمل الجامعات بتتغير كل 5 سنين. ويعاد النظر فيها كل 5 سنين. واحنا الحقيقه قدمنا بروجكت كامل لتطوير الاداره الجامعيه واداره منظومه التعليم العالي من حوالي 3 سنوات او 4 سنوات، ولكن طبعا محدش يبص فيها. لو عايزين نجيب الناس دول حقيقي ويقدروا زي ما هو حتى لو هم هناك، لكن من خلال ميكانيزمز جديده واليات جديده وقوانين تسمح بكده. احنا عندنا الحقيقه تخلف اداري في قطاع التعليم العالي ملوش نظير وصبرنا عليه كتير قوي. لابد من تعديل التشريعات القائمه وخلق بيئه اداره جامعه جامعيه جديده وبيئه تعليم عالي جديده، لانه بدونها قصه لا هي برامج ولا اسئله. احنا عندنا بوكت اوف اكسلنس في مصر كلها واساتذه وبرامج والجامعات العاصمه الاداريه هتبقى مع الجامعات الاجنبيه. كل ده موجود، لكن ينقصنا السيستم اللي انجلترا اللي هي واحده من اهم 3 دول في العالم في التعليم العالي توصلت اليه فقط سنه 95. وقبل كده كانت بتخطط في نظم وتغيرها. من 95 ل 2018 يعني كام سنه؟ 25 سنه بتغيروا كل 5 سنين. احنا بقى لنا 50 سنه يعني بقى لنا اكثر من 5 سنين بنطالب بتعديل قانون تنظيم الجامعات ولا مهم. الحقيقه احنا محتاجين بيئه اداريه تشريعيه ايوه بيئه مش هتعمل التعليم. لست رئيس لجنه التعليم رئيس الخطه والمنظمه، ولكن ده اللي احنا محتاجينه. وانا الحقيقه استمتعت بممارسه بعض مهارات القياده. وانا عملت دلوقتي عين شمس 5 سنين، وانا رئيس جامعه سنه، وانا رئيس جامعه عين شمس 4 سنين، وانا رئيس لجنه الخطه والمنظمه في ظروف صعبه جدا لمده 3 سنين. استمتعت فعلا كشخص بممارسه بعض مهارات القياده وليس الاداره التقليديه. عشان فعلا نعمل ليدرز احنا محتاجين نغير المنظومه الاداريه والتشريعيه. شكرا جزيلا. شكرا.